Are you asking the right questions to learn how many loans and deposits your website is losing? In this episode, we'll dive into how misframed questions can lead to misleading insights and how fixing this simple issue can transform your website sales performance. We'll explore a real world example from a financial institution that mistakenly lumped all users, prospects, and account holders together into their website feedback form.
You're listening to the Banking on Digital Growth podcast.
Welcome back to the Banking on Digital Growth podcast. I'm Audrey Cannata, operations lead here at the Digital Growth Institute. And today we're breaking down why it's essential to tailor questions to different user journeys and how asking the right questions can unlock valuable insights that truly enhance the user experience. And joining us for today's conversation is founder and CEO of the Digital Growth Institute, James Robert Lay.
Hey, Audrey.
Hello, James Robert.
Good to share time with you on this. And this subject came up in a not just a financial brand that we've been working with, and they're running surveys on their website, but it also came up in a lunch that I had following a team alignment workshop to kick off some strategic planning for this particular community institution. And I said, wait a minute. We're seeing patterns. We're seeing real world application with an organization who they're running surveys on their websites, but then there's this questions I'm being asked at a lunch. So I was like, we got to talk about this and provide some clarity, because I think it's the incorrect questions that are being asked are leading to incorrect insights, and as a result, there are still challenges for these particular organizations.
Yeah, and I think this is a great conversation to have too, because when you shared this issue or the situation that you saw on a financial brand's website, I'm not going to lie, it took me a minute to see it too. So I can see and empathize how it was easily overlooked and not the awareness wasn't there, but it's also something that can be addressed fairly easily. So I had to look a few times to get it, which I'm sure if I had to, others probably need to as well.
Sure. And that right there, it all comes down to a matter of perspective. And in the lunch that I was having, the perspective was, well, when you secret shop websites, are you looking at online banking experiences?
Right.
And I said, well, not typically. And they go, interesting, why? And I go, because our work is primarily focused on growth. And if you think about the online banking experience, that is more of a transactional type of a relationship. And I said, it doesn't matter. You could have the best online banking experience, you could have the best mobile banking experience, but if your shopping experience is full of friction, and if your application experience is full of friction, and if your onboarding experience is full of friction, what does your online banking experience matter at that point? And they're like, I've never really thought of it that way. Very similar to what you're talking about here yourself.
Yeah. And it's not to say that it's not, there isn't any value into secret shopping or online banking, but like you said, what's the priority? Where is the greatest amount of value to be gained? And I think the example you shared and the example that I kind of led in with, both of these situations had to do with not delineating between the different user experiences and kind of lumping them all into one. Unpack that for us.
Well, if you think that the website is historically something that is used by account holders to go in and log into online banking, which, considering the fact that 85 to 92% of visits to a financial brand's website homepage simply to log into online banking, well, that perspective is going to drive certain, we'll call them questions. Alternatively, we have to really consider, are people coming to the site, new users or even account holders, but they're going there not to log into online banking. They're going there to shop for a new product. They have a problem, they have a question, and they're looking for a solution, and they're looking for a path to get them beyond of where they're at today to somewhere where they would like to go tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. And that's where we'll call it the shopping experience really comes into play. And account holders, though, on the other hand, if we step outside of the banking space, account holders are members if you're at a credit union. Well, they're looking at the website together. Well, it's just the website. It's just where I go to online banking. It's how I log into online banking. It's how I log into mobile banking. That's the website to them. And so you have this internal perspective and then you have this external perspective. And I think that's where the confusion lies, particularly when asking questions to garner quote unquote website feedback.
Right. So with the lunch you had and the question about secret shopping online banking versus the website.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently, and this is what I was starting to tease a little bit, and I don't know how this got brought. Did you find this on your own on the website or was it sent over to you?
No, so there's an organization that we have been facilitating website secret shopping studies for over the past couple of years. And in preparation for their next study, I was just noodling around, perusing, and I saw this website pop over on one of
Yeah.
their product pages. And the popover was an online survey. And so, with my
Yeah.
curious mind, I sent the lead over there, who's managing and running all of the studies in conjunction with us. I said, "Well, what's this for? Like, what are you trying to get, and what feedback are you getting?" And
Can we
there,
pause for a minute and
sure,
let's give a little bit of context into the form itself.
mm,
So the form, it was a popover form.
mm-hmm.
And it asks one question,
There's
right?
one question,
Scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with the website?
correct?
That's it.
So NPS, basically, it was an NPS question.
And then, like, I guess the follow-up question is, were you able to complete whatever it is you were here to do? Yes, no, not sure.
Correct.
So that's the popover that you're referring to that you discovered on this website.
Correct. And then if the score was, I believe, like a 10, it was like the follow up also was what are you finding most helpful? Um, if it was lower than that, it was what what's missing or what can we do even better to
You
make
find
our
out right now.
to improve our. Well, let's pull that up. Well,
I got it right. I have it right here.
it depends on
I
if you
just
can trigger it.
I just
Did
I
you
just gave him a 3 and it just said thank you for your feedback.
really?
Yeah.
Ah, because whenever I had tested this a couple of weeks ago, it had more of an open-ended question tied to it.
See, we try it again.
And well, I'm curious because maybe they're actually following up because and this is the whole point of this conversation. The feedback that they're receiving with this popover, which is on a product page, asking
Oh,
about
yes. Okay, I tried it again. Now this form
uh-huh.
is showing me the same 1 through 10,
Yep.
and then just open-ended, please give us feedback. So I don't know. This was a matter of probably 30 minutes in between I pulled up these windows.
So that's interesting. We're doing this in real time. Now the
Mhm.
feedback and this is where when this VP of marketing emailed me back and they said, well, we're not getting the feedback that we had hoped for. My quick reply back was, why not? And they replied back, well, we're getting feedback that's about our online banking. And I'm like, yeah, but this particular form is on a key product page that you're looking to optimize. So it's a matter of
Well,
context
is
right
it?
here.
Yes. I mean, and I'm going to restate the question one more time, just for our listeners.
On
The
the
question
form,
is,
on the form.
on the form, yes. Overall, how satisfied are you with the website? That's it. So clearly broad.
Mm. And
And like
the
your
perception
comment, yeah.
that the responses are trending more towards a like or dislike or satisfaction or dissatisfaction around the online banking experience. Even though that this answer or this question has nothing to do with the online banking experience, it is framed around the website and being served up on a particular product page.
Well, this is on the homepage now.
Oh, this is on the homepage now.
I just went to the
Ah,
homepage. So that's again
mm.
I understand, love open-ended questions. I do. But you got to provide something, some sort of parameters there.
What would your recommendation be to improve? Because you ask a lot of questions. I mean, if you think about the 1,300 plus website secret shopping studies that we've facilitated, we have a library of questions that we utilize when
Well,
setting up and facilitating a website secret shopping study. How would you optimize this question here?
First of all, I'm curious how this question's even, how the popover is even triggered. Because if I just went to this website for the first time and it's popped up in 5 seconds,
Mm,
like slow down. I don't know how your website's. I just got here.
mm.
To me, that feels a little pushy, a little in your face. It doesn't feel right to me. So I would be curious now if someone's been on your site, maybe if there's a way you can find out, what visit they're on, or if they've been on the site maybe for 5 minutes, they're
Sure.
looking, or if they're a repeat visitor, but not maybe an account holder. Um, well, gosh, I guess the question is first, what are you hoping to get out of this? And that's the question you asked. Because it's hard to tell you what the recommended question would be if I don't know the end goal.
Everything has to start with an end goal. Like for example, when we do our website secret shopping studies, a lot of times the end goal is they want to identify gaps, they want to identify blind spots that they can't see. They want to see what there is friction within the shopping experience. But you're right; it has to start with an end goal, and I think you're onto something too. Let's not even worry about the question. Let's determine why we're asking the question when we're asking it, because it seems to be very either randomized or it's popping over within a 5-second window of time on site. And I think you're bringing up a really good point that, well, what if this is the first time that someone's visiting? How is that going to impact the feedback and the response? Because, and I would perhaps even isolate that question to particular product pages and frame the
Right.
question around the product page, but more specifically, be very mindful of when that popover question survey is triggered. So, for example, it's triggered 60 seconds into a page visit, or it's triggered when someone is scrolling down 50% on the page, or when they're about we can detect whenever the mouse is moving towards to close a window. We trigger the popover at that point to try to intercept on exit. So I think there's multiple ways that we could even improve this particular experience
Yeah.
here of serving up the question, but it's very hard to even optimize the question of, well, what's the goal? And I think, well, let's play a hypothetical situation. What if the goal is here is to get clarity into where someone doesn't have the information that they need on a page, or maybe it's better, it's like basic, it's we ask the question when we secret shop websites, based upon what you see on the page, do you feel clear and confident, or do you feel confused and frustrated? Why?
Now that would work if they were following up with some specific outreach communication.
And that's where, when we facilitate website secret shopping studies, we're isolating those experiences. We're going out and recruiting
Correct.
account holders or prospective account holders who fit the ideal client persona or the ideal client profile, versus doing intercepts on a site, because that would be a very jarring, frustrating, annoying
Yes.
experience.
And two, I mean, if the goal for your user is to convert somewhere, uh, whether that's on a product page or, loan application, whatever, deposit application or contact us form,
Mm,
you just put up a barrier in my way. You just put up a piece of friction
yeah.
to get me to that could possibly pull me off course, when what you really want me to do is make it, to the pot of gold. Well, you just jumped in front of me. I
Mm,
don't know. I guess that's my personal, those frustrate me, especially when they're not done in a way that is targeted, well thought out. You're doing something with that information. A general "how are we doing" blast feels like it's not worth the frustration or the friction or the annoyance. You're not going to get enough value out of that than the annoyance that you're causing, in my opinion.
well, on a completely unrelated but related experience. So Delina just took Lucia to an urgent care. Um, that she had broken her toe, and this is the second time. Like, this is the second time in 6 weeks that Lucia
I've
has
not
gone to,
heard this.
because it literally just happened last night. Um,
Wow.
thought that Lucia broke her toe, and this is the second time in 6 weeks that she's gone to urgent care, because the last time that she went to urgent care, we thought she had broken her nose. And like, Lucia is just she's having a rough start to her school year this year. Fortunately, there was no broken nose, just really badly bruised. Like, she got the black eyes and whatnot
Oh,
underneath that. And how she did it, oh my gosh. She was practicing for dance. And she did a spin, and she was recording herself. So the video was on the iPad. And she spun and she slipped, and we have tile floors, and she face planted into the tile.
mm,
You heard the pop. And I'm like, thank God she did not like remove her teeth in that experience.
right. The
And
nose broke her fall.
the nose broke her fall, and thankfully she didn't break her nose through that process.
Right.
So then her toe became an issue, because the kids were just running around the house and chasing each other, just being kids. And she ran into a wall, and her toe was the stopper, and just jammed it really bad. I mean, her toe and foot looks all bruised up, looks really nasty. And once again, very glad that she didn't break it, because she has cross country season coming up, and she's wanting to run, and her coach feels
Yeah.
like she can
Not much
really
you can do.
really do well this season in cross country. All of that being said, Delina got an email from the urgent care. Tell us, or rate our experience, and they disclosed that this was a one question survey. And and I watched Delina. I was observing her. She was like, "Is this really one question?" And it was an NPS type of a question. And she clicked her number, and it was a 10, and that was it. And she goes, "Wow." She goes, "I like them even more, because they set the expectation that this was going to be a one question survey, and it was a one question survey, and that was it." So
Yeah.
I think it's important to even think about how surveys and gathering feedback, gathering data can impact a customer experience, can impact a buying experience, because even the question and the way that it's being asked right now, an account holder might judge the quote unquote website based upon their experience with online banking, because that's their experience with the website.
Right.
They're going to the website to log into online banking, and they're not perceiving online banking and the website as two different experiences. Whereas a prospective account holder, they're going to view the website from how helpful it is in regards to making a purchase decision.
If that, I mean, who knows? They might just be responding on the way it looks.
Mm.
Right. It's beautiful. We don't know. We're like right there, we're already assuming that they know that we want them to say something about the product pages, the information. It doesn't say that. It just says, how satisfied are you with the website?
And if the
That's our
feedback,
bias. Yeah.
correct, and once again, and you're right, and if the feedback is looks good, and
Yeah.
that if that's the pattern that starts to percolate, then the marketing team might think, "Oh, our website is doing great. We don't need to make any changes on it." When in reality, there are still blind spots in the buying journey that are costing them loans and deposits. But the feedback that they received didn't provide the maybe maybe a better way to frame it is the question wasn't even framed the proper way to begin with in the first place, because
Mhm.
it all comes down to asking the right questions within the right context to get the information to make a decision to do X, Y, or Z.
So what was your recommendation here with your follow-up? Once they, I think, so they wrote back and said, okay, a majority of the responses are regarding online banking, good or bad.
Mm.
How did you continue that conversation?
Well, kind of how we're doing it today. I was like, it's a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways that I framed this back to this uh, VP of marketing, and I said, look, I said, you have to consider that there are really three different distinct experiences that make up your macro website experience. The very first one is what I call the shopping or the lead experience. Someone who is shopping for a financial product. So it could be a new visitor that has never visited the website before. It could be a prospective visitor, meaning that they visited the website before, but they're not an account holder, but they've come back more than once. It could be even an account holder who already has a relationship with the financial brand, but they are now shopping for a new product. So we'll call this the shopping or the lead experience. That's the very first experience that makes up the sum here of all three experiences. The second one is the prospect or the application experience. And that's someone who is going through the application. They're looking to open the account, um, but they might not complete the application. So there's still a prospect. What do we do with these types of prospects? How are we following up with them? Are they starting the application and abandoning? Are we following up in any way? Are we calling them? It's the prospect of the application experience that I see is really probably costing the
Yeah.
majority of financial brands loans and deposits.
Yeah, I think there's certainly more value to be had to allocate the resources into that follow-up communication, the nurture communication.
Mm-hmm.
For me, this popover feels like a box that was checked on our list.
Mm.
Well, we need to do that. Somebody, somewhere, I don't know how far up, said we needed to do this. There, it's done.
Yes.
But if you're not getting valuable, actionable insights from it, it's got to go.
Yeah. And also when I think about the shopping or the lead experience, we just did a podcast where we have found through a recent website secret shopping study that 0% of people in this cohort would start the application,
Yeah,
meaning that they've all landed on this page because they clicked on an ad. When they clicked on the ad, that there was a cost or an expense associated with that click, but 0% would reach the prospect or the application experience. So this is where they're all intertwined. And then the last one is the account holder experience, which is where the account holder is an existing customer who or member who's coming to the site to log into online banking. Um,
yeah,
and, and and that's why we have to look at these three distinct experiences when gathering data, when gathering
yeah,
information. And as we talked about on another podcast, we can look at the big data set, informing what people are doing on a site or what people are doing on a particular product
yeah,
page. But we're more interested in the thick data. Why are people doing what they're doing? Why are they behaving the way that they're behaving? And really, even more deeper than that is, why do they believe what they believe? Because it's the beliefs that they have that drive their behavior when interacting with a particular product page.
yeah. So do you think then if the majority of these responses on this popover were online banking related, that I guess your is okay, well, let's just remove this from the website. And this is a question that we can ask just inside the platform or target just our members since they're the only ones or account holders, they're the only ones answering it anyways. This is still great information.
We either remove it or we optimize the question. We ask a better question and we optimize when we're asking that question. Do we need to ask the question on the homepage? Once again, if we're asking that question on the homepage, context matters. 85 to 92% of people are coming to a financial brand's homepage to do one thing. It's to log into online banking, which is why they're probably overly indexing on online banking responses. Whereas if we were to move that question and isolate it to a product page, optimize the question to the particular product shopping experience, and then also optimize when that question is served up or when that survey, that popover is served up, 60 to 90 seconds on page view, scrolling down 50 to 70% of the way on the
Mhm.
page, exiting it if we notice that someone's going to exit or close the tab. Those are the more ideal times to ask that question versus just within the first 5 seconds of the page. Because even if someone is shopping for the product, they don't have context into what they're even looking at to be able to effectively answer the question in the first place.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't know that you could get um that specific with when obviously I know the timing, but when you scroll down the
Mm-hmm.
page, I did not know that you could control that.
Yeah, it's all based upon page pixels. And
Interesting.
so, let's just say there's 10,000 pixels that make up the length of a particular page. And so if you set a trigger to fire off a popover of whatever the popover is, whether it's a survey or email acquisition or offer, you're doing it based upon a percent of pixels. So it's like 50%. So it's like you scroll down, you know, 5,000 pixels out of 10,000 pixels, that's when you would fire that particular trigger off. Or we can look at where the mouse is moving. So if there is a perception that the mouse is moving to
Mm.
close the tab, that's another place to fire off a popover form survey offer as well.
That's fascinating. I've already learned a lot about the popovers just and having these conversations. Yeah, this is good.
Well, that's the thing. You're facilitating website secret shopping studies, but you're always looking to learn. You're always seeing things differently. I mean, this is coming from my background of, 22 years in digital and building websites and thinking about user experience. And I've always wondered, I'm like, when we get an organization on a quarterly website secret shopping study cadence, would there be even more value to add in additional data points like the big data, the heat maps, the click maps, the
Yeah.
scroll maps, but also doing site intercepts with the caveat it's all going to have to be contextual because back to your point, that could end up creating more friction in the online experience, which is where we we tend to want to isolate those into the website secret shopping studies to begin with in the first place because it's more qualitative data, it's the thick data, but we're getting it more contextually to the actual shopping experience instead of just a standalone single pop over on the page itself, which might not be the best data to get back to then make a decision off of.
Yeah, that I think that's the thing to keep in mind is keeping that flow of the shopping experience. And
Mm.
that's why, the website secret shopping studies are so helpful, are so valuable because we are really isolating that experience. We're not getting in the live environment and tampering with a real life user experience.
Yeah, nothing wrong with site intercepts or
Mm.
popovers. It's just it's for me, it's questioning the validity of the data and the insights gained because it is interruptive and it
Right.
perhaps could even be out of context as what has transpired this conversation to begin with in the first place.
So as we wrap up, James Robert, final takeaway, action item, something to think, ponder over regarding the, three different experiences, online banking, website, pop over, don't pop over. Final takeaway.
It comes down to why. What are you trying to learn? What are you trying to uncover? What are you trying to, what's the end goal? Number one. Number two, within these three different experiences, whether that's a shopping or a lead experience, a prospect or an application experience, or an account holder experience, where would it be most beneficial to gain this perspective? And then finally, it's how do we gain this perspective? Is it a site intercept pop over? Could it be better served with an email survey? Could it be better served with heat maps, click maps, scroll maps? Could it be better served, or could the perspective be gained with a website secret shopping study? Getting clarity into what we're trying to learn to begin with in the first place is always the very first step that would then
Yep.
help to inform the next best step.
Right. So purpose, intent, strategy, not simply checking a box.
That's exactly right. Check the box. You might learn something. You might not. You're probably going to add more confusion than you are going to gain clarity.
Yep. Thank you, James Robert, sharing all these insights and experiences with us.
Absolutely. And if you want to secret shop your website, text me. What is my number? 832-549 832-549-5792, or text Audrey 415-579-3002, and we'll guide you through that process just as we have thousands of times before. Appreciate you, Audrey.
Let's do
Thank you
it.
so much. Let's do it. As always, y'all be well, do good, and y'all be the light.